red light district. And Julius Caesar, when you may have seen where Portia is talking to Brutus, she's trying to get him to tell him what's been going on in the orchard, and she says he's keeping secrets from her. And she says, "Dwell I but in the suburbs of your good pleasure, then is Portia Brutus' harlot, not his wife." Now we say suburbs, nice leafy sort of place, convenient commuting distance. Suburb then was horrible place. Outside, suburbre, under the city, you see. All the wrong things going on there. So if you're going to the theatre, you go over London Bridge, or possibly go past by water, and you'd pick your way past the slaughterhouses, you'd have to step over, blood running down into the river, past a few brothels, and the bear baiting, don't forget the bear baiting, very near the Globe. You know about bear baiting?
No.
Bear baiting arena. Well, yes, if you didn't want to go to the theatre, you had other opportunities. You could go to the bear gardens, and there you could see a bear tethered to a stake, and English masters being set upon it. And you could have a bet on how many it would sort of pull down before they called them off. Or you could whip a blind bear if you felt a bit daring. You could go in the ring and sort of chase a blind bear around, annoy it, all sorts of things. That was just next, a few hundred yards from the Globe. In fact, Ben Jonson, in the preface to Bartholomew Fair, he talks about hearing the bears roaring. He's in the theatre, you see, the prologue, and he hears the bears roaring down the road. And that was the sort of thing, there's that sort of age you've got to take on board. It was beautiful, elegant, was wonderful poetry, costumes, great courtesies, and yet at the same time squalid, cruel, beastly. There's extremes, and ages of extremes nearly always produce good art, which is a bit hard on the people who lived then and on the artists. Yes, please.
This was during the time of the Puritans. Oliver Cromwell.
This is before Cromwell.
Before Cromwell.
Well before Cromwell.
Okay,
Yes.
now
There were Puritans around,
okay.
but they weren't in full power.
Okay. With Elizabeth being on the throne.
When Elizabeth's on the throne until 1603, then James I. I'll come to him now. Cromwell comes later.
Okay.
Yeah, Cromwell comes later. I mentioned Cromwell in a quote from Henry VIII, but that was a different Cromwell. That was Thomas Cromwell. Now, the Puritans came into power really with the Civil War. You see, it was broken in 1642, long after Shakespeare's time. And Cromwell eventually became a sort of military dictator. To my mind, I don't like anything with leg on it. Some say it was the founder of English liberty. I don't see it at all. Never mind. We're all cavaliers or roundheads in this country. You say I'm a cavalier. Yeah, but yes, Elizabeth was on the throne, and a great woman she was too, I'd say. Wonderful woman. I must just quote her speech at Tilbury. This was the Spanish Armada was approaching, and she went down to review her troops. Tilbury in the mouth of the Thames, and she said, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too, and count it foul shame that Spain or Palm or any foreign prince should dare invade the borders of our realm." Good stuff, you know. It was great. But as I said, she was getting older. There wasn't an heir. So some people were worried about this because were we going back to the sort of Wars of the Roses? I'll come on to James I a bit more in a moment. Yeah, so theatre in Suffolk, very shady, very unpleasant area, but some lovely things going on, if you could avoid the nasty bits. And the unusual fact that this particular theatre, the Globe, was owned by the company. In fact, in 1599, the theatre was built, so a Dutch visitor called Thomas Platter, who recorded in his diary, going to see Julius Caesar. He said, in the new thatched house across the water. It was unusual, it was thatched instead of tiles. And across the water, a bit of an adventure. He had to cross the river to get there, you see. Now that thatch was its undoing in 1613 when it burned down. During a performance of Henry VIII, cannon is fired to signal the arrival of the king at Wolsey's house, and spark caught the thatch, burnt to the ground. 1613. It was rebuilt fairly soon afterwards, but the modern one modern reconstruction, has thatch like the old one, but with many fire precautions, as you can imagine, attached to it. We mentioned Cromwell. Well, what happened afterwards was in 1642, when Parliament threw the king out, and he fled first to Nottingham, and the Parliament, which is mainly puritanical, closed all the theatres. First thing, it was to forbid all stage plays. There were no plays in England from 1642 until Charles II returned in 1660. And the Globe and the other theatres simply fell apart.